Line, Carrara, Italy. Pouring in labor under the shadow of the immense statue by Michelangelo uncovered in a recent landslide. The fantastic statue towers over 700 feet tall. How did the artist create this colossal statue? No man can say.
As a young man, Michelangelo spent many months in the marble quarries of Carrara, searching for the blocks of perfect stone from which he would carve his masterworks. One day he gazed at the vast white mountain peaks and imagined carving a sculpture out of an entire mountain. He saw his immense sculpture serving as a beacon for sailors at sea. He seems to have been imagining something along the lines of the Colossus of Rhodes. It was a casual idea, but it must have preyed on his mind because he came back to the concept as an old man and said that if he'd had 4 lifetimes instead of 1, he could have done it. However, sculpture is an engineering problem, and Michelangelo was to push marble to its limits with his 17-foot-tall David suspending over 6 tons of stone in the air on 2 fairly narrow ankles. Still, there is something majestic about a gigantic figure looking out to sea. We will never know what he was imagining, but it's not impossible to make an educated guess. All of Michelangelo's sculpture, and virtually all of his painted figures, are tightly compact forms, usually embedded in some kind of matrix, either stone or cloth. A seated figure, or better yet, a reclining figure design, would have been necessary for any very large sculpture. Arms break off. The stone cannot carry its own weight. A reclining figure would not have had any problem holding itself up. A reclining figure is pretty much a profile cut into a rock, or in this case a mountain, and no part of it is suspended out into the air for time or the elements to knock it off. A seated or crouching figure could have been designed to hold all or most of its own weight up. But a reclining figure could be essentially a relief carving cut into a cliff face. Michelangelo carved reclining figures which are in fact essentially relief carvings, which is how he worked on freestanding sculpture as well, cutting directly into the face of the stone and revealing it front to back. Of course, in Michelangelo's time, no such vast project could have been begun, let alone completed. It was audacious even to contemplate it. We create such sculpture today, of course, but it requires explosives and modern engineering, and it's still a huge effort. The Crazy Horse Memorial in South Dakota, the largest such structure in the world, is only beginning to appear after over 50 years of continuous labor. Yep, as the critic Robert Hughes said of it,
When finished, if it is finished, it will look something like this, an Art Deco paperweight the size of a small Alp.
the towering statue called the Motherland Calls in Russia is made of concrete and rebar and is constantly falling apart. Some large sculpture has been created at immense expense. Egypt's Sphinx is one. It was carved from a natural rock outcropping. The Maori of Easter Island required the effort of an entire civilization utterly committed to that one sprawling project. And perhaps it's just as well that no such huge statue was ever created. Sculpture does encourage some people to wreck it. Witness ISIS in 2015. We don't have a word for the fear of sculpture, but we do have a term for the fear of lifelike things such as puppets, automatophobia.
The fabulous Colossus astride the harbor of Rhodes, city of sin, a pagan fortress with an evil purpose. Behind its eyes, cruel warriors watch the devastation they have wrought as the great god Moloch incites its followers into a raging fury of ecstasy and terror.
My friend who is a Christian has a Buddha statue next to her Christian ones. Is that okay?
No, it's not. Take it out and break it. Break it.
That's it.
Destroy it.
Some people hate Mount Rushmore, and they'd like to see this happen. Others have been able to destroy the totemic power of a sculpture with their hands. And while the Statue of Liberty doesn't seem to inspire vandalism, there is more than one way to sabotage a potent sculptural symbol. And the term iconoclasm has historical, political, and religious meaning. The Taliban went as far as firing artillery shells at two 2,000-year-old Buddhas carved into an Afghan cliff. However, in that case, the niches from which the Buddhas were carved still stand as acts of sculpture in their own right. Twin, giant, negative sculptures that tell us as much about the current culture, if you want to call it that, as about the one that came before. We will never know what Michelangelo was thinking, but is it possible that Michelangelo spent all those years up there in the endless gorges and crannies of Carrara and never carved anything that still waits to be found? And, as we know that Michelangelo cocooned his figures in their surround, is it possible that we've been staring at his idea for a vast reclining figure staring out to sea for 500 years and not knowing it?